My theory behind why the oldest Elmer clone still had his heart is that, when he first woke up, there might not have been anyone to greet him, let alone another Elmer clone. He might have been hooked up to a series of machines, and perhaps Bryce Tank Thrust hadn't even realized that he was awake yet. So what might have happened was that the oldest Elmer clone might have been able to make a run for it, seeing as Bryce Tank Thrust probably wouldn't have had the same quality of security back then, inside of her facility, compared to when the events of Stuff and Sam take place. Perhaps that's even why she implanted chips into all of the Elmer clones. Which one of the Elmer clones, the assassin that had been sent after both Donna and Sam, in order to kill them both? Shortly after they began to find the behavior of both Helen and Bryce to be quite suspicious, ends up mentioning that, seeing as he was within the parameters of the building, his chip had probably been flagged already, and the security heightened. Also, she might not have even made her Thrust babies building yet. Perhaps she had originally created the first Elmer clone inside of a different place entirely. I believe that, after having managed to escape from the facility building that Bryce Tank Thrust owned, the oldest Elmer clone had possibly begun to get into dancing, and might have even been on the verge of becoming famous, which might have been how Bryce Tank Thrust managed to track him down. Or perhaps what had happened to him was that he had been working in an ordinary job, with the dream of becoming a dancer in his mind, when Bryce managed to track him down. Though, another fact to possibly support my theory is that if he was a dancer, then that would have been quite unusual, seeing as all the other jobs that the other Elmer clones have had have all been considered to be dull or mundane. After all, it is quite unusual that, while the other Elmer clones had such jobs, that the oldest Elmer clone was possibly a dancer, or at least had the aspiration to be one. Perhaps this is why she kneecapped him in the first place, so that he didn't become famous, and other people didn't recognize the large amount of Elmer clones that were running about the planet. Some Elmer clones might have moved to other countries, which is proven by the British Elmer clone that was seen as a tour guide in episode 5 of Normal British series. I also believe that the reason as to why she didn't then steal his heart when she managed to track him down and break both of his kneecaps, which, according to Bryce Tank Thrust,
and you said me kneecapping you would ruin your dance career,
was probably because, by that point in time, she had at least a dozen other Elmer clones, including an Elmer doctor, along with much more maxed out security, in order to make it so that no other Elmer clones escape. I also believe that another reason behind why the oldest Elmer clone's heart wasn't stolen by Bryce, once she had managed to track him down, was probably so that Bryce could just be cruel. Or maybe, after he was kneecapped, someone helped him get away, with Bryce possibly then killing that person shortly thereafter. Maybe she used to have an Elmer clone for an assistant, who then betrayed her and helped the oldest Elmer clone in order to get away. After all, in both Blame the Hero and Stuff and Sam, it has been shown that the Elmers didn't need to have hearts in order to recognize unfair treatment. And most, if not all of them, had then ended up starting a rebellion against Bryce Tank Thrust, or who they themselves had, by that point, labeled as
the Red Queen,
due to her having created countless Elmer clones, and having stolen almost all of their hearts, apart from the oldest Elmer clones.